I just got done reviewing your literature review rough drafts, and I found some themes among them that I'm going to add to this next week that I hope will help you strengthen your literature reviews. Now, as all of us work in TESOL or world language or culturally and linguistically diverse education, we're used to WIDA and we're used to teaching genres of like inform, and then you do inform in a field like social studies, or you do explain in a field like math, and you systematically and explicitly teach students the rules of each genre in that particular field of mathematics or social studies or science. And so literature reviews have rules, and I realize that they're not super explicit, and you the honest truth is the more you write them, the more you kind of get a feel for those rules. And so I'm going to add some themes that I notice across your rough drafts, and hopefully this serves as a support. And I'll try to make it as quick as I possibly can. So only the first two are like my super passionate ones that I want everybody to work on, but the other ones are minor ones to help you. They're not in any particular order. So direct quotes. Because this the proposal that you're creating is going to be 15 pages overall, excluding your references, your abstract, and your title page. You're only going to have about 8 or 9 pages to write a literature review, and that's not a lot. And so I'm going to strongly encourage, and even I don't know if it urge or demand are even in there, but super limit the direct quotes. Like only put direct quotes if like there's absolutely no other way to say what the original author said, and that's pretty rare, especially in an 8 or 9 page literature review. I might even venture to say there should be no direct quotes, would be a great starting point for each of you. The problem with direct quotes, and especially a lot of them, is I'm reading, or the reader is reading your literature review along, and it's in your voice, and we can hear your thinking as we read it, and then all of a sudden it switches to the voice of the other author. And if it switches back and forth too many times, it gets really disjointed. It doesn't feel like it's a smooth narrative. And you are all strong writers, and your voices are strong. So just write it, and your paraphrase or summarize, of course, citing the person, the works of others, and you can do that. The next really big one is this is a synthesis rather than a list of summaries. And honestly, this is what you are putting forth to the world. This is the part that makes this your contribution, not an annotated bibliography. So you are looking for themes on your topic among the authors. You're looking for patterns of what they write about. You're looking to compare and contrast what they maintain, because you're trying to say, here's something that needs to be studied, and you're finding either like a hole that hasn't been studied, or you're finding other things that will contribute that need, like other authors are saying this also needs to be studied, and that's what you're looking for. A list of paragraphs of other people's works. I call it like a string of mini book reviews. That's not a literature review. That's really like an annotated bibliography or an outline. So move on to synthesis, and I'm going to show you an example. Right. So this is just I just grabbed a page from my dissertation, but like here. There are diverse theoretical perspectives that explain why humans transform, including blah, and then that's the article, blah, this other one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm citing each of them, right? Um, However, and here's the theme, most of the literature surrounding transformative learning contains elements of three paradigmatic underpinnings: constructivism, humanism, and critical social theory. And I even cite who would say that. And then I'm going to go through, and you'll see I show like the next thing is constructivist epistemology. And I go through and I show that, and I could make you dizzy, and it's a super long literature review, and then go and I after constructivist I show the humanist axiology, and then I show the critical social theory thing as I go throughout. And so that's the synthesis, right? Like I'm putting together, but I'm showing those themes. The next thing is you got to define your terms. So you presume an educated reader. You presume somebody who has at least graduated high school or maybe even is a college student as you write, but they don't know about your field. So every time you introduce a term, you define it. It's very similar to preloading vocabulary for our speakers of other languages. So, like, let me give you an example. So, I mentioned the constructivist epistemology. The first paradigmatic underpinning of transformative learning is a constructivist epistemology. What's epistemology? Epistemology deals with the nature of knowledge and how humans systematically arrive at knowing something. And then I'll go through and I'll say, here's what constructivism is. Constructivism assumes that there is no single objective reality. Rather, in both constructivism and that's transformative learning theory, knowledge is what an individual creates or constructs in the mind versus what can be scientifically measured or what others tell us is right or wrong. So the next thing you do is you define the terms that you use. All of you, and this is normal for this being the first huge paper that you're going to write, need to review your APA, especially your in-text and reference list. So you can go to your APA manual to do that. You can go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, which is my personal favorite source. I find it easier to navigate than the APA manual. You can go to the Gambrell Primer video. I think I'd put that in like week 2 or 3, but I'll re-put it in this week. Other things to start doing title pages. I can correct the drafts and then help you out with that. Several of you didn't start working on your title. The title is one of the things that I spend more time on per word than probably anything else in a 30-page article. Do the running head. So the running head is at the top of each page. It's, travel for transformation. I think the running head might have changed a bit since I did this like 7-8 years ago. But see what the right thing is for the current APA manual. But you need a running head and then the page numbers in the top right. So work on all those things. Start doing them now so that I can be like, hey, this is off or that's off. I'm going to strongly encourage you to avoid vague terms like, there are a number of ways, blah, 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 or various studies show, blah, 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 blah. State the ways, right? Like, even in when I said there are diverse theory, including, look, blah, 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 blah. And so I'm giving, what's that called? I've just lost it as I'm talking in this video. But I'm giving the ways, I'm stating them, I'm showing the ways rather than keeping it vague. Make your thesis sentence super strong in each paragraph. On that idea of strength, saying something very strongly without citing somebody else's work looks like you're biased. And it's part of this genre. So if you're going to say something strongly, you have to cite something. So your voice is what walks us through. But in a literature review, statements like I believe or I feel, they're not included because you're talking about the works of other people. Super strong statements like research indicates, you got to tell me what research indicates that. So if you say research indicates, at the end of that sentence, there needs to be a citation, right? Or various studies have shown, you've just made it so multiple citations have to be at the end of that paragraph. And also avoid language that could be refuted. So for example, if you say no studies show, all I have to do as a reviewer is say, well, this study does, and then that limits your credibility. But you can say throughout the course of all literature reviewed for this proposal, no studies showed blah, 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 blah. Then that you're hedging it so that it sounds a little stronger. Almost never, I'm just doing it right here, almost never do words like always or all or none or never appear, but you can say most or many, and that hedges your language a little bit. In APA, one of the things that APA does to reduce, I'm not going to say eliminate, but reduce gender bias is you only state the last name of the author. Gambrell, in the parentheses, 2023, stated that blah, 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 right? You don't say James Gambrell because that genders the author. And then some other things, as these next ones are now that you're editing, right? Like, start working on those transition words. Moreover, thus, in addition, therefore, additionally. What those transition words do is they help guide the reader to your thinking. Like if it's a moreover, it's like, oh, you're adding to the previous thought. If it's a thus, because this other thing, then this thing. If it's a, next, it's just the next idea. If it's lastly, I know it's the last idea. And so I would strongly encourage that. I'm going to make you dizzy here for a second, but I'm also going to encourage you at the beginning of your literature review to include what's called a metatextual roadmap. And so sorry to do this to you. Let me go to the beginning of this. Did I just pass that? I think I did. Literature review. Oh, here we go. I highlighted it. So check this out. This chapter begins with a brief introduction of transformative learning theory. Following, I provide a history of TLT to contextualize blah, blah, blah. Next, I provide blah, 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 blah. And then subsequently, so I'm keeping it going. And then finally, or lastly, I end with blah, 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 blah. This helps the reader prepare for your different subheadings that you're going to create. And it's really good to start your literature review with a roadmap so that the reader knows what's going on. And then, now that you're moving from drafting to editing, start looking at your sentence structures. Like some of the things you just state, and then at the end you put the study where you got that from. Some of them you're going to say Gambrell 2023 states blah 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 blah. And then like, are there sentences you can crunch together? Are there sentences that need to be separated? And just having that variety adds a little spice to your literature review. The last thing I want you to know is you can do this. You got this. You all are great writers. And these are suggestions to strengthen and to make your literature review stronger. None of these are, hey, this is terrible. These are suggestions for improving. And so I'm looking forward to watching each of your sections of your paper go through this different stages of drafting and then editing and then finalizing, and keep on keeping on is what I want you to know.